We're going to be going over what's called a face pull today. It's called that because we're going to be pulling this band towards our face. It's going to work the back of our shoulder muscle called the rear deltoid, and the movement is going to achieve both of the functions of the rear delt muscle. So the back of our shoulder both pulls the arm back behind the body. This muscle is involved in doing that, and it's involved in what's called shoulder external rotation, which is when we do this. That's going to externally rotate the shoulder. This muscle is involved in both of those things, and we do both of those things in this exercise. Additionally, our infraspinatus, which is one of our rotator cuff muscles, will be involved, which is great because anytime we can strengthen our rotator cuff, right, that really helps protect our shoulder joint. All you need is a band and a place to anchor it about 4 to 6 inches above your head, and let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get into position for the face pull for our rear delts. I'm going to show you from 2 angles so that hopefully you can really see what's going on with what body parts where. So from the side to begin, you'll notice that I've mounted the band a little above my head. Technically, honestly, anywhere from your head and above a little bit is going to be fine, anywhere in here, all right? And you want a band that's strong enough so that when you're standing with your arms out in front of you, that you already have some tension pretty much right is somewhere in the beginning if possible, but be able to pull the arms all the way back here behind the body and then rotate so that the arms kind of move up to a vertical position. You need to be able to do that. If the band is so strong that all you can really do is here, and then you're trying to like rotate the shoulder here, that's not going to be good because the rear delt, it's most active once the arm gets back in here. So we need to make sure that we can get fully back in here and rotate from here versus our arms still being more out to the front of us. And if that means that the band has to be a little lighter at the front part of the motion, that would be okay, all right? So just keep that in mind. You want it to feel difficult in this range at the very least, okay? So outside of that, you want to have your feet about hip width apart or so, and you want to have a bit of a bend in the knee. That's going to help work the core harder, help you stay nice and stable. Your palms can either be facing each other, this is a neutral grip, or they can be facing down. My personal preference is with the palms facing down. I just feel it's easier to kind of keep my elbow in the right position, and I feel better activation of my rear delts, but you can try both ways and just see what feels comfortable to you. And then the other important thing to point out here is that when you pull back and do the movement, I'll try to show this again during, but it's very easy, like, you know, especially when you're trying to get more tension, it's very easy to kind of lean the body back because that makes it feel more doable and easier. But then we're kind of just using the weight of our body to help us do the movement, right? So we want to really keep the shoulders stacked over the hip and over the feet, just a straight, nice and upright, even with those bent knees, just like that, so that when we're doing the movement, it's really the rear delt that's doing that, okay? Another thing to point out here is that as you pull the arms back, you want to think about the beginning of the movement is like leading with the elbows. So my elbows are leading to move my arm back behind my body. But then as I get close to my torso, as my elbow gets close to my torso, at that point you want to think about my hands now starting to lead the movement, where I'm now going to bring them up and they're kind of finishing the movement. And I'm trying to keep my elbows where they are. So when I pull back, I'm not letting my elbows move forward like this. Do you see that? How my elbow's going from the side of my torso to kind of in front of my torso? That's not what we want to do. So we pull the elbows in line with the torso, and then keeping the elbows there as much as we can, we pull the arms up so that our forearm is more vertical. Do you see that? So lead with the elbows first half. As we get to the torso, then we lead with the arms, and then we reverse it. And that finishes the first rep, right? You do lead with the elbows, then the arms, and we can make it a fluid motion, just like this, right? Hi, I'm Razel, If you're a woman and you're over 40s like myself and you want to get into resistance training at home, like with dumbbells and resistance bands, but you know, maybe up to this point you felt intimidated, or the things you've tried, you just felt like you didn't get enough instruction, I create more detailed tutorials that really break things down, make you feel comfortable with them. Additionally, over on my website, I go over things like how to make the exercise easier, how to make it harder, common mistakes to avoid. If that sounds good to you and you like my style of teaching, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com. I'd like to reiterate, just in case I didn't really make it clear, that when we're doing the movement, to make sure we're getting the best rear delt activity, that the height of the elbow during the whole movement is going to stay kind of either around shoulder height to a little below shoulder height. Okay, so somewhere either, you know, a little higher like this, or we can come a little lower too. The idea is you want to be feeling it back in here, okay? This back part of your shoulder. So if you're not, it's like you want, because like for instance, for me, our upper trap muscles are up in here. Mine tend to get involved in exercises very easily, and so sometimes when I have my arms really higher, they get all excited. They're like, I want to be a part of this movement, and that's not good, right, for this thing. So we're trying to work back here. So for me, that means sometimes I have to lower my elbows a little bit to make sure that I'm feeling it in the right place. There's a certain point, so see, somewhere in here, right? You don't want the elbows coming down too low, like down here. At that point, we're gonna be working our lat muscles. So that's gonna be more of our back, which is totally awesome. It's just that right now we're trying to work up here. And so keeping this upper arm a bit higher is gonna help make sure that we're keeping the work to here versus the side of our back. So let's do a few reps where you can see from the side. All right, from the front now, this is where you can see some other good stuff. So you can kind of see just kind of how my arms are in relation to my torso, right? So my hands are here out in front of me. We've got my arms kind of around shoulder height, maybe a little bit below, right? So somewhere in here is good. And now the most important thing is what I can show you for doing the movement that you can really only see from the front or the back, which is that you're gonna pull back like this, letting the elbows bend. What you'll notice here is that my elbows are, you know, either here in line with my shoulder as far as height goes, or a little down. So they're gonna be somewhere in here. The goal is for my elbows to be far away from my body. That's the goal. We don't wanna be down here, right? We wanna be way up in here somewhere. So that's the first thing. As we pull that first half of the movement, we're letting the elbows bend. Then, as we kind of get halfway into it, we're gonna do the shoulder external rotation, which is basically where we're gonna keep the elbows where they're at in relation to like the side of my torso or a bit behind, and we're gonna bring the hands up, keeping the elbows where they are, like this, okay? Now, the important thing here, I don't know if I just did it right, but if you look at the angle, I'm trying to think if I can point and let go of this. Look at the angle of my bent elbow. Let me get a little closer so I can. The angle should be anywhere from like 90 degrees bent to less than 90. You don't want to be more than 90 degrees bent. Okay, when you start going like this, it just gets too easy. Do you hear my chickens? I think she's feeling proud of herself. She must be laying an egg. So the goal here is to have our arm not bent, the elbow not bent more than 90 degrees. So anywhere in here is good. So that they're not straight, they are bent, but we want to keep that bend to about right in here, okay? So let me show you that. Let's do a few together. Now, when you do the shoulder external rotation, this part, make sure that you keep the wrists in neutral, which means don't let them bend. This may take a little practice because there's a lot of tension going on here. So it's very easy to like let the wrist bend like this or like back like that. But you really, you really want to work on keeping that wrist, like if you look at it from the side, just nice and neutral, right? So we're pulling back, just keeping it nice and neutral versus like going like that or pulling back and having the band pull it, okay? So this is how you want to have it. I'm about in neutral right there. Thanks for being with me today, ladies. Once again, I'm Rayzell, and if you like my style of teaching, you're a woman in your over 40s like myself, and you'd like to do full-length workouts utilizing these sorts of movements, I create those, and I do them in beautiful outdoor nature settings with chill music, bird songs, river sounds. If you like that idea, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com.